I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I always believed that if you loved someone and put in the effort, things would just work out. I married Emily about 10 years ago. She was beautiful, sharp, a little bitchy sometimes, but honestly, who is? We had a good life, or so I thought. Two kids, a nice house in the suburbs, decent jobs. Nothing spectacular, but it was ours. I was content, or at least I thought I was. Things started to feel off about 6 months ago. Emily became more irritable, snapping over small things, acting secretive. She'd leave her phone on silent all the time, and if I asked her about it, she'd brush me off with some smart-ass comment like I was some paranoid idiot. I figured maybe she was just stressed about work or something. She's a manager at that marketing firm downtown, always juggling deadlines and client meetings. So I let it go. I told myself I was overthinking it. But then came the little things. Her phone started disappearing into her purse more often. She'd go to the bathroom, and I'd catch her deleting messages. She also started wearing different perfume, and I swear her scent was different after she'd been out. I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. The worst part was the way she'd lie straight to my face when I asked about her whereabouts or her phone. I'd catch her smirking, acting innocent like I was just imagining things. One night, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I was planning to surprise her, maybe cook dinner or just spend some time together. When I walked in, I noticed the back door was slightly open, a little unusual considering we always lock up tight. I called out her name, but there was no answer. Then I saw her bedroom door slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and that's when I saw her. Emily was in our bed, and she wasn't alone. There was a guy, some guy I'd never seen before, naked on top of her. She was laughing, totally comfortable, like it was just another day. I froze, my stomach twisting. My mind went blank. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, was cheating on me with some stranger during my own visit. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My heart started pounding so loud I thought I'd faint. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't make a sound at first. I just stood there watching her and this guy having sex like it was nothing. It felt like my entire world had just collapsed. After what felt like forever, I backed out slowly, trying not to make a noise. I checked the front door, still open, and left without a word. I needed time to breathe, to process what I'd seen. I couldn't believe she'd do this to me, and in my own house, no less. The next day, I did some digging. I started looking through her phone, her emails, anything I could get my hands on. I found messages, flirty texts, pictures, all the stuff she'd hidden. She'd been cheating on me for months, probably longer. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I uncovered another lie. I couldn't even sleep. All I wanted was the truth, and now I had it. But I also knew that confrontation was coming, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. I didn't want to jump to conclusions without hearing her side, but honestly, how could she explain away what I saw? Still, I knew I had to confront her. I needed her to admit it, to tell me why she'd betrayed everything we had built. That night, I waited until she was back from her work dinner, which was probably just an excuse to meet her guy. When she finally walked through the door, I was sitting in the living room, my arms crossed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emily," I said, trying to sound as calm as possible. "We need to talk." She looked surprised, maybe a little annoyed. "What's wrong? You're acting weird," she snapped, walking into the room and dropping her purse on the table. She was one of those types who could switch from bitchy to charming in a second. That's part of what made her so difficult. She was good at hiding her true feelings, hiding the truth. "I know what I saw," I said, voice hard. "You and that guy, you've been sleeping together. During college meetings, during our family vacations. I found messages, emails, everything. Don't even try to deny it." Her face twisted into a smirk. "Oh, so now you're spying on me? That's real healthy, honey. Maybe if you paid more attention or didn't work so much, I wouldn't have to go find some companionship elsewhere." I clenched my fists. "Companionship? You're cheating on me, Emily. I saw you with him, naked in our bed. How do you explain that?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Look, I don't have to justify myself to you. Honestly, I was stressed. That guy, Chris, he's just a distraction. It doesn't mean anything. Sex was great, sure, but it's just sex. It's not like I love him or anything. You're being dramatic." That's when I lost it. My blood was boiling. "Not love, so it's just a game to you, just some fun behind my back. Do you even care how much this hurts? Or are you so consumed with your own bullshit that you don't see the damage you're doing?" She scoffed. "Wow, you're really going off the rails. I don't need to explain myself to you. I'm tired of your paranoia and your accusations. I'm done with this conversation." She turned on her heel and stormed into the kitchen, leaving me standing there feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. I was furious, hurt, and utterly betrayed. But mostly I was confused. How could she just brush it off? How could she lie so easily? The woman I thought I knew was a stranger, cold, selfish, and a liar. The next morning I woke up feeling hollow. I couldn't even focus at work. All I could think about was that damn footage, her laughter, her touch, all the lies she told herself to justify what she was doing. I wondered if she'd ever stop lying, if she even felt guilty. Part of me wanted to confront her again, demand the truth, but I knew that might only make things worse. Still, I couldn't just pretend like nothing had happened. I needed a plan, something to make her realize that I wasn't going to be a fool forever. I started doing some research, trying to find out how I could catch her further, what legal steps I could take if I decided to make her pay. My mind was racing, and honestly, I couldn't believe I was even considering all this. I'd always been the guy who believed in loyalty, in honesty, but now I was questioning everything. How could she do this to us? To me, to the kids? I had no idea what the future held, but I knew I wasn't going to accept this betrayal quietly, not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of numbness. I kept thinking about everything, her lies, her smirk, the way she dismissed my feelings like they were nothing. I was furious that she could look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly. But beneath that anger, there was also a deep ache of betrayal. I'd always thought we had something solid, that our marriage was built on trust. Turns out I was dead wrong. I couldn't stay in the house anymore. It was too suffocating, too full of memories I didn't want to relive. So I moved into a hotel for a few days, trying to clear my head. It was then that I decided I had to do something about this. I was done being the guy who just took it. I needed to understand how long she'd been lying, how deep her betrayal went, and most of all, how I was going to get revenge. Not in some petty, childish way, something calculated, something she'd never see coming. I started by installing some hidden cameras around the house. I knew it sounded paranoid, but I needed concrete proof. Plus, I wanted her to see she couldn't keep hiding behind her lies. After a few days of surveillance, I caught her. Not just once, but multiple times. She met with Chris during the day when she was supposed to be working, sneaking out the back door, pretending to run errands. I even saw her sneaking into a hotel downtown with him, her hair disheveled, her face flushed, like she was on a high. That moment hit me like a punch to the chest, but I also felt a weird sense of clarity. I had the evidence now. I could do whatever I wanted. That's when I realized I had a choice. I could blow everything up immediately, call her out, ruin her reputation, maybe even tell her parents or the kids, but I didn't want to do that just yet. I wanted her to suffer, to understand what she'd lost. So I started planning my revenge carefully. I knew Emily was the type who loved to manipulate, who thrived on controlling the narrative. I had to make her see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. One night I sent her a text, short, simple: "We need to talk now." I knew she'd panic, maybe try to deny everything, but I was ready. I had the photos and videos, irrefutable proof. When she finally showed up, her face was already twisted with annoyance, like she knew she was about to get caught. That smug little smile she always had was gone. I sat her down, played the videos on my phone, and watched her reaction. Her face turned pale, then flushed, then she started lying again, trying to dismiss it all. "You're crazy," she spat, trying to brush past me. "This is all some mistake. You're just jealous, insecure." "No," I interrupted. "You're the one who's insecure. You think you can just cheat and lie and I'll never find out." "Well, I did. And I'm sick of your bullshit. You've been sneaking around for months. During the college, planning meetings with our son, no less. While I've been working my ass off, you're out screwing some guy who's supposed to be just a friend." "Yeah, I saw everything." She tried to deny it, to act like I was imagining things, but I'd already had enough. I showed her the video of her in our bed, the texts she'd sent Chris, the ones that made it clear she'd planned this for a while. Her face curled into anger, then into tears, then into outright rage. She called me every name in the book, accused me of being paranoid, possessive, pathetic. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. I'd already seen the truth. The emotional storm hit me then, anger, sadness, betrayal, and a strange sense of liberation. I realized she'd been using me, lying to me, all while she was out having sex with some guy who wasn't even worth her time. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, but also like I was finally waking up. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to decide what to do next, whether to fight for the marriage or walk away for good. The truth was, I was leaning toward ending it. I wasn't sure I could ever trust her again, and honestly, I didn't want to try. But I also knew I had to make her pay in some way. Not just for the betrayal, but for how she'd lied to me so easily, how she'd taken me for a fool. That's when I started thinking about how I could turn her own game against her, how I could make her realize she'd lost control of the narrative. Because if there's one thing I learned from this whole mess, it's that trust isn't built on lies, and betrayal always comes with a price. After that confrontation, I saw a different side of Emily, her real face, the one she'd been hiding behind her bitchy smirk and careless lies. She was furious, crying, shouting, denying everything, but I knew better. The evidence was too clear. Still, I didn't want to just cut her loose without making her feel the sting of what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences, big ones. I started setting up a plan that would hit her where it hurt most: her ego, her reputation, her sense of control. I knew that Emily always loved being the center of attention, loved to manipulate the narrative, so I had to be smarter. I didn't want to scream or threaten. I wanted to make her realize she was losing her power, her grip on me, her life. That meant being patient and precise. My first step was digging even deeper into her life. I went through her social media accounts, her emails, her messages, everything I could find that might give me leverage. I wanted dirt, secrets, anything I could use later. It was disgusting, yeah, but I didn't see another way. I also started talking to some of her friends, people she trusted, getting their opinions, subtly testing the waters. Turns out, several of her friends knew she had been acting differently lately, but no one thought she'd cheat. I guess she kept her secrets well, or maybe they just didn't want to believe it. Meanwhile, I kept the videos and photos to myself, using them as my ace in the hole. I knew she was paranoid, always thinking she was smarter than everyone else, but I wanted her to see she was. I started dropping hints about finding out things, making her nervous, creating a sense that I wasn't just some naive fool anymore. I pretended to be passive, but inside I was planning her downfall. Piece by piece. One evening I planted doubt in her mind. I told her I was talking to a lawyer about something, just to see how she'd react. She got defensive, tried to manipulate me into dropping it, but I pressed her hard. "You've lied to me, betrayed our family, and I don't know if I can ever trust you again," I said. Her face flickered with anger, then frustration. She insisted she'd been under pressure, that her cheating was just a mistake, a lapse she regretted but couldn't fix. That's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her, cornered, scared, losing her grip on control. I also started telling her that her career might suffer if the truth came out. I hinted at exposing her affair to her boss, her friends, the school counselor, even the police if I had to. I wanted her to panic, to see how fragile her perfect little world really was. She snapped at me, telling me I was crazy, that I'd ruin everything if I kept pushing. But I didn't care. I had to make her see that her lies wouldn't last forever. In the meantime, I kept myself busy gathering more proof, more photos, more videos, even hacking into her email account, which I know is wrong, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I wanted her to realize she was no longer in control. Her attempts to manipulate me, to deny everything, only made me more determined. I kept thinking about how I'd get her back, how I'd make her feel the pain she'd caused me, and in doing so, I realized that I was finally starting to see who she really was, just a selfish, manipulative bitch who thought she could get away with anything. The worst part was watching her try to spin her lies, trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I was done being the naive husband. I'd lost her, sure, but I was about to make her regret the day she ever crossed me. I knew there'd be a reckoning, and I was ready for it. I didn't know how I'd come out of this, but I knew I'd make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, every hurt she'd caused me. The tension between us kept building, and I could see her losing her grip. Emily was used to being in control. She loved her power, her charm, the way she could spin stories and make people believe whatever she wanted. But now, with all the evidence collected and her world starting to crumble, she was beginning to crack. Her bitchy attitude turned more defensive, more aggressive, but I saw through her facade. She was scared, and that was the sweetest victory I'd had in months. I knew I had to escalate things to make her fully realize that she had lost her grip. I started dropping subtle hints that I was planning to confront her publicly, about her cheating, about her lies. I told her I was considering talking to her boss and the school counselor about her inappropriate meetings with Chris during the time she was supposed to be working on our son's college applications. Her reaction was priceless. She started panicking, accusing me of trying to ruin her career, of making her life difficult. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted her to see that her lies could only last so long before everything else fell apart. Meanwhile, I kept the evidence close, hidden away out of her reach but ready to be unleashed. I started to think about how I could turn her own tactics against her. Emily was always the one scheming, lying, manipulating. But I was no longer going to be the naive, trusting husband she'd taken for granted. I started planting tiny seeds of doubt among her friends and family, hinting that maybe she was hiding something more than just her affair. I wanted her to feel the walls closing in. One night, I sat her down for a final, serious talk. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, that I was prepared to go nuclear if she didn't come clean. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "If you think you can keep pretending everything is okay, you're wrong. I have everything. Every message, every video, every secret you've tried to hide. You're not going to manipulate me anymore." Her face twisted into rage, then tears, then pure defiance. She yelled, calling me every name in the book, pathetic, jealous, insecure. But I didn't care. I was finally in control. That's when I decided that if she wanted to keep lying, I'd make her regret it. I contacted a private investigator to gather even more proof, things I couldn't do myself. I told her I was going to expose her secretly to her boss, the school, everyone. Her panic was evident now. She begged me to stop, to forget everything, promising she'd change. But I knew better. This wasn't about change, it was about punishment. The most satisfying moment was when I finally sent her a message, telling her I was making arrangements to meet with her boss and the school counselor. I wanted her to understand that her perfect facade was about to crack completely. I saw her start trembling, her confidence shattered. That's when I knew she realized she'd gone too far this time. Looking back, I think the hardest part was watching her scramble, trying to control the narrative, trying to lie her way out of it. But I was done being the forgiving husband. I wanted her to feel the same betrayal she'd inflicted on me. I wanted her to stand in the wreckage of her own lies and see what she'd created. I knew that, from this point on, everything would change, and I was ready for whatever came next, the fallout, the heartbreak, or maybe even the liberation of finally walking away. Because if she thought she could cheat and lie and get away with it forever, she was dead wrong. The day finally came when everything collapsed. I had the proof, every message, every photo, every video. I sat her down one last time, knowing that the moment I'd been waiting for was here. Her face was pale, eyes darting around, trying to find a way out. But I was calm, more than I'd ever been throughout all of this. I laid it all out in front of her, word for word, piece by piece. Her protests, her lies, they all sounded hollow now. She tried to deny, to spin some story about misunderstanding or fake accusations, but I cut her off. "You've lied for months," I said, voice cold. "You've cheated, manipulated, and lied every step of the way. And now there's nothing left to say. You're done." She burst into tears, crying about how she was sorry, how she loved her career, how she never meant to hurt me, how she just got caught up in the moment. But it was too late. The damage was done. I knew I wouldn't forgive her, not this time. I looked at her, seeing through her tears, and realized that I had been a fool to trust her for so long. I told her I was leaving, not just for now, but for good. I packed up my things that evening while she was crying and pleading, and I left her standing alone in that house, her empire of lies crumbling around her. The kids sensed the tension, but I didn't want to drag them into the mess. I wanted to protect them from her drama, her manipulations. Once I was out, I knew I'd start rebuilding my life, the way I should have done from the beginning. In the days that followed, I felt a mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally saw her for what she really was, a selfish, dishonest woman who thought she could get away with anything. Heartbreak because I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. But love isn't blind, and betrayal like this doesn't just vanish overnight. I had to accept that I'd lost her, that I'd been betrayed in the worst way possible. Still, I knew I'd survive. I had my dignity, my pride, and the hope that someday I'd find someone who deserved my trust. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. But more than that, I learned that sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. You can't just sit and hope everything will work out. If people lie, cheat, and manipulate, they need to face the consequences, because nobody is entitled to your loyalty if they don't respect it. So here's my advice if anyone's going through something similar. Don't ignore the signs, don't let it fester, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, no matter how hard it gets. Because at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself to be honest, to be strong, and to walk away from anyone who doesn't appreciate you. I may have lost my marriage, but I gained clarity. And honestly, that might be the best thing that ever happened to me.